Hey, what's up? I'm back, and I'm here for another creepypasta reading, except instead of reading somebody else's story, we are going to read my story. We're gonna read my creepypasta fanfiction, and it's gonna be great. So let me just get back to the first chapter, Rooney. Okay. The fanfiction is called Blade Makes the Creepypastas Eat Her Hairy Ass, and the first chapter is called A Strange Encounter in the City of Chromodon. Alright, let's get right into it, shall we? Let me just add some more green to the stem, et voila! I stood back and admired my work. It was a flower wilting within tight walls, except the petals surrounded the face of an anxious child. Of course, a smooth canvas was preferable to a brick one, but I had to make a compromise because this was the best location I could find. High up, unobstructed, and sandwiched between a busy expressway and a train station. I smiled to myself as I put the spray can back into my duffel bag. Slinging the bag over my shoulder and pulling my dark hood up farther over my head, I made my way over to the ladder on the edge of the building. Freeze, vandal! A blinding light hit my eyes, held by the silhouette of an authoritative figure wearing a brimmed cap. Shit. The main exit was blocked. Without thinking, a phantom of a sly smirk began to spread across my face, and I turned around and leaped off of the building. Ouch. I crashed onto the roof of the train station, leaving a dent where I landed after the dozen-foot jump. Okay, that property damage was unintentional. I looked up to where the security guard was. Crap, he's gone. Maybe he even called for backup. I looked around, deep in thought. Just then I heard footsteps rushing up the steps. He would catch me on the roof. Obviously he was trying to corner me. Obviously he didn't know who he was dealing with. I swiftly and silently shimmied down a pole connecting the roof to the main platform. Just before the security guard made it up the stairs, I lowered myself down to the edge of the platform behind the railing and hung onto the planks. So there I was, a dark figure in the night, dangling 35 feet above 122nd Street from an elevated train station in downtown Chromodon. But out of sight to the confused guard. Even if he wasn't looking around the roof, my pale hands on the planks were practically invisible in the dark. That stubborn security guard really tested my grip strength, but he eventually admitted defeat and left to return to his post, or whatever it is that they do when they're not chasing after me. Once I was sure he was gone, I pulled myself back up to safety. I gently massaged my burning forearms, then grinned as I walked down the stairs. You know, like a normal law-abiding person does. When I was once again at ground level, the adrenaline rush started to wear off. I looked back up at my artwork. I'm sure more people will appreciate it once there's some daylight. I yawned. I would have spent another night on my favorite park bench, but I had my bag with me, and I was positive that as soon as I fell asleep, a sticky-handed passerby would mosey on up to me. Besides, as much as I loved being under the stars, those benches weren't very comfortable to sleep on. I sauntered back to the residential area where my mom and I lived, limping slightly, making jarring motions, and mumbling to myself. Being only 16, it was hard not to feel so vulnerable on the dimly lit sidewalks, but I found that the weirdos don't approach when I act weirder. Besides, even if the boulder creeps were out and about, I was known to give a mean ass-kicking. So, like always, I made it home with me. I opened the front door to our dinky little home. Our house was filled with the smell of ceramics and pure ganja, as well as the sound of a chill reggae song. "That you, Blade?" "Yeah, Mom," I hollered back as I set down my duffel bag and took off my hoodie. Without looking up from the pottery she was working on, my mom asked, "So, what did you make this time?" "A child wilting within the walls of regulations," I replied. She smiled. "You do me proud, girlie. So when can I see this creation of yours?" I ignored her question for a moment, then asked one of my own. "Mom? Mm-hmm. What would you do if I, never came back home?" She sighed, knitting her brow, then said, "Well, Pumpkin, that would mean that my little free bird has found another nest." My mother and I often spoke in the language of metaphors. I tried to decipher the code. "You don't care if I never came home then?" I asked. Not that I wanted to know if she were to answer in the affirmative. Honey, I do love you very much. Like I always say, if you love something, you set it free. Except she didn't look up from her sculpture, and she answered a question I didn't ask. That was the answer to the question I thought about asking for years now. I finally had it. She says she loves me, but does she care? Now that's a good fucking question. All of a sudden grumpy, I stormed off to my room and lied down on my bed. It was Sunday, and I had barely started my homework, but I just wasn't in the mood. After who knows how long of scowling on my bed, I heard a mysterious scratching sound coming from the window. "Fuck you want, bitch," I said out loud as I walked up and walked to the window. I thought I was just talking to myself, since that's my sense of humor. I could not have been more wrong. Upon arriving at my bedroom window, I stood face to face with an ugly, wide-eyed creep who had a smile that was way too fucking. I almost noped the fuck away from my window, but it goes against my personal code of honor to retreat from a perceived threat, so I stayed, just standing there. My heart rate increased every second I looked at that freak, but I somehow kept my composure. And my sense of humor. I don't remember seeing you in that YouTube compilation of failed plastic surgeries, I said to him through the glass. He just kept staring at me. My heart skipped a beat. I considered that maybe it could be catastrophically stupid to a creepy rando staring at me through my fucking window. But nah, if this idiot was going to kill me, I definitely wanted my last words to be roasting his ugly ass. The guy leaned in close to my window and breathed on the glass. Then he drew back, and with his finger, he smudged a picture of a circle with an X through it. After he drew that fucking masterpiece, he ominously backed into the shadows and out of my sight. "Oh, okay," I said with a nervous smile. I went back to my bed, still a bit short of breath. I gulped as I wrapped myself in the blanket, trying to forget his unblinking, always watching eyes. I tossed and turned in an effort to get some shut-eye before I had to go to school. And thus concludes chapter 1 of my story. See you in the next video.